mediation can be very effective, even when you're dealing with a narcissist or a borderline personality disordered ex. But we really do believe that mediation should be an option, especially for people who are domestic. I see you, Liz, who don't at least try mediation. And I know you don't believe me, but let's just see. Oh, there you go. Right. But that it should be a possibility. And today we have an expert, Liz Merrill. She also is called the Divorce Whisperer, who's going to talk to us all about mediation. I already explained to her that most of the people who will be watching and listening to this are not dealing with a normal situation. I told her that our community is really full of people whose exes have some kind of active addiction and or personality disorder. So we are looking for advice on dealing with that kind of person. And I already told her that she's going to have to persuade some of you to even consider mediation, because I know how tempting it is to want to go hire a pit bull attorney to advocate for you, especially after you've gotten out of this very difficult relationship. So before Liz even introduces herself, Liz, are there any instances you can think of when someone's at the very beginning of the process where they shouldn't even bother trying mediation, they should go straight to litigation?
So the cool thing about mediation is that no one ever will force you into an agreement in mediation that you're not comfortable with. And especially if you already have an attorney who's advising you or supporting you, even if you haven't hired them to represent you yet, they're just sort of advising you on an hourly basis. They haven't you haven't hired them to represent you officially. Nobody's going to force you into an agreement. Usually people don't start there, but it's a very safe process from that standpoint, because there's in a way nothing to lose by trying it. Most of my clients start with mediation to see what happens, and a surprisingly high percentage of people who come with high conflict divorces get through the mediation process successfully without having to resort to litigation and resort to going to actual court, because by the time they start mediating and working through and understanding what their options are, they kind of realize that they're not likely to get a better resolution by litigating. And what I find is that a lot of the higher conflict parties, they come to mediation because they think that because they think they're smarter than attorneys.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And they think they might be able to like bamboozle me because I'm a woman.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they think they might be able to hide something or to get away with something. But
Or to
I
charm
also,
you.
And when they realize they can't, they sometimes get frustrated, and they might sometimes sort of direct their irritation at me. But I also have other divorce professionals, other neutral divorce professionals who work alongside me, including a CDFA.
Can you tell people what that stands for? I mean, I know, but just in case.
Of
What's a
course,
CDFA?
yeah, a certified divorce financial analyst. And that is a very powerful professional to have by your side, regardless of how you are approaching your divorce, whether it's through litigation or pro bono, pro se, which I don't ever advise if you're in a high conflict situation. But they're the financial support, and they can be neutral or they can just be only supporting you. That can be very critical, because attorneys aren't financial advisors,
Mm-hmm.
and they're able to see things that attorneys can't, and they're able to look at the data and look at the facts in a very specific way that can be very critical to your case, regardless, again, of how you're approaching it. And they're able to take things out of the emotional realm and into the fact and data realm. And that's where I try to keep things as a mediator, and hopefully other professionals try to keep things. And I already told you I ramble, but in mediation, I try to keep things there, and I will bring in other divorce professionals. And so when we are working with these other divorce professionals, a lot of times as we're going along, both parties start realizing that facts are facts, um, law is law, and there's a very limited range of outcomes, regardless of how you approach your divorce process, whether it's through mediation or litigation, because the laws don't change and math doesn't stop mathing, and addition and subtraction don't change just because you want them to. So, looping back to your original question, it's always worth trying.
Yeah.
Absolutely always worth trying. You might be out a few $100 or even a few thousand, but benefit, the potential benefit is huge
Yeah.
because it can save you tens of thousands of dollars if it does work in years of your life.
Yeah.
So if you find a good mediator and are able to um, connect with them and work with them and show up um, empowered and informed, that's a really good start. The other thing I will tell you is that if you are trying to divorce someone who's unhinged, another really good thing that you can gain from mediation is information.
Mm-hmm. We always
It's
tell people, if nothing else, that first session, keep your mouth shut,
keep your mouth shut, and
right?
listen to what they're having to say.
And
Um,
encourage them to talk.
mhm. Because
Yeah.
you will learn a lot about what's important to them, what they are thinking about, what their strategy might be, um, and that's all information that you can use in the future, even if you're not using it right at that exact moment.
Right. And that's worth a lot. So so Liz, can you introduce yourself formally and tell people exactly what you do and a little about your background?
Yeah, my name is Liz Merrill. I live in Colorado. I'm a divorce mediator. I was in a marriage with a narcissist for 20 years. We had 3 children together. Moved all over the world. He's a very successful scientist, a research scientist, and quite a bit older than me. And probably, well, what I realized, I didn't realize it at the time, but I realized it subsequently, was that my story was so similar to so many other women's stories. And at the time, it was such a long time ago. I didn't have, there was an internet, and I didn't have communities of people. And I just thought I was alone. I thought I was isolated. And I thought I had to stay in this situation for my children and for my own safety and for my financial safety. And when my kids they were all around the same age when they got to be, around mid-teens, they came to me, they're all daughters, and said, "Mom, can we get divorced? Why are we?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I thought I was being brave. No, I wasn't. I was scared. I was scared to file."
Mm-hmm.
But I went down to the courthouse and I filed that day and I just sucked it up. I was afraid of what the divorce process was going to be. And it was horrible. It was as horrible as I thought it was going to be. It took a really long time. I had to take out a loan to pay for it. I went from attorney to attorney to attorney trying to explain to them my situation. And like almost all of them were horrible to me.
Mm-hmm. We see that a
Um,
lot too.
yeah, they were acting like I was the problem. I was trying to
Mm-hmm.
tell them the truth. It was demoralizing, and long story short, I came away with a lot of information about how badly our court system was set up for divorces, and in particular for supporting people who are in abusive marriages, um,
Mm.
and for domestic violence in general. And that really caused me to want to kind of shift careers midlife, which is what I did, and I became a mediator. I also needed to find find a way to support myself.
Hmm.
And I had a limited amount of time with some maintenance. And so I used that time to get training and to learn how to build a business and to build my business. And so that's what I do now. And the mediation that I do is informed by all of that experience. And I've been doing it for 7 years. And I've helped hundreds, hundreds of couples get through the process, many of them high conflict. I've only had a handful end up in litigation, and so
Wow.
I'm really
That's,
proud of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you should be. You should be. And we like to remind people, even though you have a high conflict ex, even those cases settle like 95% outside of court. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel like it ever has the chance to, but Chris and I only, my partner and I only deal with high conflict cases, and most of ours do settle. I mean, sometimes you'll be in court. I mean, I was in court, but that was post judgment. Um, but I'm so glad that you noted that most of your cases are high conflict. Can you talk a little bit about mediation as a form of alternative dispute resolution? Like, what does mediation look like? Because some people talk about open, closed, shuttle mediation, and
Mhm.
arbitration.
Yeah. So yeah, alternative dispute resolution is a broad umbrella. It's a broad term. It also includes arbitration. Arbitration is less common than mediation, and a lot of people don't understand what it is because it is so it's rare, at least in my experience, especially in divorce. It's I think more common, like if you have businesses who are in dispute. It's private, and that's one of the big reasons why people use it. Um, in in a divorce, if you have a case in court, that is open to the public. It is
Mm.
public record. Randos can walk into your court case and listen, and it's all public record. In arbitration, it is not. An art so the other difference is you have a judge, but it's not. It's usually an ex-judge,
Mhm.
right, or a judge who's kind of freelancing, and they will listen privately to your case. They will issue a judgment, and once they issue a judgment, it's final. You can't go back. You can't re-argue it. You can't. It's final. So it's over once they've issued it. You can't argue it.
And
So
it's way
if you want to,
faster, but it's
and it's a
way
lot
faster
faster.
than
Yeah,
being on a court calendar. So
yeah,
what about mediation, like the type that you do? Tell us what open, closed, shuttle, and whatever I'm missing.
yeah. So there are different kinds of mediation. You can do it attorney assisted. If you have an attorney and you're going to do mediation, um, sorry, my brain just like took a little hiatus there. If you have attorneys and you're going to do mediation, your attorneys are going to want to be there. You're usually going to do it in breakout rooms. If you're doing it virtually, if you're doing it in person, you're going to be in separate rooms, and that is called shuttle mediation. That's where the mediator goes back and forth, kind of like a messenger.
Hmm.
And that's really important if it's extremely high conflict, if there's one party who's fearful of the other party. Um, I, if it's possible to not have that, it can be more effective just because of time crunch.
Time
Um,
crunch, also body language. I feel like being in the same room, you have a lot more potential for leverage.
yeah, that's all true. But also, you can also spend a lot of time like listening, trying to navigate and cut through the emotional chatter and the stuff that's not important, right? Because if I'm a mediator and I'm going back and forth and I'm listening to someone who's like, she said this because that, and then last week and blah blah blah, that stuff is not important. You need to get to like the this is this and that is that, and what is your proposal, what and take that piece. The danger is that you just become a sort of a horse trader and a messenger, and that there's no art in that, and that's not really getting to the important part of mediation. um what was your question? That's shuttle mediation.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
attorney assisted mediation.
Right. Do you see a benefit? I think if possible, and we try to, and I know you said you don't recommend pro se. We do a lot with actual pro se litigants, and
Mm-hmm.
we do, but not for the initial divorce, but we do try to help people do as much as they can on their own, but to really prepare
Yes.
properly.
Yes.
Do you think, I was going to say, is there a benefit to open mediation, like being in the same room? That's what I had said. We generally try to
Mm-hmm.
recommend that if someone can get in the headspace to be ready and
Yeah.
feels like they're not going to be um,
Yeah.
attacked, etc. And so we
That.
started talking about that too. And
Yeah.
also, what do you think about doing it without having attorneys assist? Because some of the people I've interviewed, including attorneys, say that attorneys are your advocates and they can make I mean, certainly they're necessary for parts of it, but sometimes in mediation, they can extend the time. It
Oh
turns into
God.
lots of arguing. But when you have a good mediator, just with the two of you, you can move along faster and get more
Yeah.
done. That's what I experienced in my own case. Like it
Yeah.
was just my ex and I with a mediator, and we had a number of sessions where nothing happened, but we did get a parenting plan, which my lawyer who was in the background said, you just saved so many thousands of dollars by doing it yourself. And it was, in my mind, like a great parenting plan.
Yeah. That's really primarily what I do. I very rarely do attorney assisted mediation. It's usually me and the couple.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, because I don't have an attorney background, um, the way that I approach mediation is really different than most attorneys or most mediators, because most mediators um, do have an attorney background, and I do not. And
Mm-hmm.
they approach it from a really different lens
Mm-hmm.
than I do. When I approach mediation, I approach it with my background. My background is as a mom, as someone who went through a divorce. I weirdly, it doesn't seem like there's a connection, but I was a professional classical musician for most of my
Mm-hmm.
life. So I I'm used to using my ears professionally and
Mm-hmm.
body language, and you're sitting in an and vibing. And that sounds really hokey,
No,
but
it doesn't. Not
I'm
at all.
very attuned to the people around me. And even when emotion, I could just talk all day about this. I love it so much.
I'll cut you off.
Yeah.
I'm good at interrupting, but keep going.
Um,
I think it's really important. Like the focus on detail and listening and making people feel heard is
mhm.
very, very important. I think those softer skills that often are not present when someone who's just trained in logic, like a lawyer, is like, okay,
Mhm.
let's get to it.
Yeah.
But you're dealing with so much emotion and knowing how to manage that. And like you said, being attuned, it's not hokey. It's not woo woo.
No.
It's important for people to feel comfortable
Yeah,
and safe.
because most of us by now kind of know how the brain works, right? There's the amygdala, there's the reptile brain, right? And when you're going through a divorce, that is on fire, right? And when you are dealing with a high conflict person, that is always driving things. Um, and when you have been the target of abuse, you, your brain is on fire. And when that is happening, you're in fight or flight or freeze or fawn mode.
Mhm.
Um, and your logical brain is switched off. And that is the worst possible place to be when you are trying to make good decisions about your
Yeah.
finance, your children, your future. So being in a mediation session when your brain is on fire is a waste of time and money. So
Mhm.
for me, it's really important to help keep people feel safe, help them feel heard, even the person who's, you know, sorry, I'm just trying to move things around here. Even even the high conflict person, you don't want them to feel like their back is up against the wall
Right,
if
because
all
then
you
they
want
go
to
to
do.
court.
Because then they're going to be pushing back and they're going to be mad and they're just going to say no on principle to everything. Um, and if you can, I mean, and if you know anything about negotiation, you want them to feel like they're getting something out of this and they're being heard and they're being represented, and you don't want them to shut down. And of course, as a mediator, even if you have your own personal opinions about what's going on, you you're neutral and you're trying to help both parties um, have their interests heard. Um, it's a very hard line to walk, I will say, as a mediator, when you are in a situation where you can see the
Mm.
power imbalance and you can see someone really trying to take advantage of the other person, and you have to be very careful. Um,
Yeah,
and that's often when I will put people in timeout. I don't call it timeout, but I will
right.
put them in breakout rooms. But yeah, I mean, the the way that the way that I approach mediation comes from a very different place than attorneys. And I do it on a flat fee. I try to do it on a flat fee. So I have packages, right? So that we're not just trying to get everything done in one session, because a lot of times if it's attorney led, they will schedule it for a day or half a day. And that's insane to me, because you cannot, I know I get it from a scheduling standpoint, but after an hour or two, people are so emotionally exhausted. They're
Yeah,
not able to focus. And
right.
again, this is it's like the most expensive hour you've ever spent, because you're paying so many people so much money per hour.
Right. Yeah.
Um, I couldn't stop hyper fixating on that, for one thing. And then there's that pressure, like you're deciding everything all at once, and your attorney's like, "Rah," and it's awful. And yeah, your brain isn't working right.
Right. And also when
Um,
there's these day-long things, I think at least a lot of our clients say that even their own lawyer starts pressuring them to settle.
yeah,
And the mediator sometimes, because it's like, oh, we've spent all of this time. Like, if you don't accept it now, it's going to go away. And there's this terror that
yeah,
even though no one can officially make you agree to something, it feels like you're being forced
yeah,
to agree to something,
yeah.
and then you regret it later. So I
Hmm.
love that you said the thing about no more than a couple of hours if possible. That's what we believe as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so it's not empowering at all, and that kind of brings me around to something that I think is very, very important, which is that whenever you're mediating, in whatever way, don't go into it blind. Whether you have an attorney or not, or you're doing it on your own. And I want to go back to what you said, because I agree that if you are mediating without an attorney, because that's the way I do most of my mediations, it's you do have more agency, because when your attorney is there, they're trying to do stuff for you, and sometimes they're doing things without your permission, and they're saying
Oh
things.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? and
Mhm.
and it's taking away some of your voice, and you when your attorney is there doing stuff, it just automatically makes you clam up, right? And you feel like you don't have the right to ask questions, or you feel stupid asking questions.
Mhm.
um, I mean, that's the way I felt. um, so again, like when I do it, that's why I have a package, and we have mediation sessions drawn out over several months, so
Mm.
that we can have a conversation today. what are we trying to figure out? We're trying to figure this out. Well, what do we need? What do we need to know? Oh, you need some more information. You need to talk to the realtor. You need to talk to a mortgage lender. Because sometimes people come in, for example, well, I want to keep the home. Well, do you know if you can qualify for the mortgage? Well, I'm
Right.
going to assume the mortgage. Do you know that you can do that if you talk to your mortgage company? Well, no. Well, why don't you go out and find that information rather than us fighting about that?
Right. Or
Go.
getting an inspection if you want to stay in the home and not knowing if there's any huge repairs that you might
Mhm.
have to be dumping tons of money into.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I try to keep things focused on data because
Hmm.
there's no point in expending a lot of emotional energy on, the principle of a thing
Right.
or something that you don't even know is possible yet or not. Just, that, and so in that way, having sort of like slow mediation over many sessions allows you to kind of understand not only the process, but understand your options, understand what makes the most sense for you.
Hmm.
Because, for example, in Colorado, it's an equitable state. So there's an understanding that you're going to divide your assets and your debt equitably. And the cool thing is, even though that's kind of vague, it's equal or fair, there's a million different ways you can divide something equitably, right? And I use the example of a pie. You can divide a pie like straight down the middle, but you could also split it horizontally and you could take the top or you could take the bottom or you could take the filling and you could take the crust or you can, do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And
Yeah.
what makes sense for this couple doesn't make necessarily sense for this person, and what makes sense for this party might be different than this party. And until you have those conversations and understand what the data is and understand what your options are and have had time to look at um, look at stuff, you know you, point is they're being able to spend time doing that not only allows people some emotional and mental space, also just to process and internalize the
Hmm.
change that's happening.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's just that alone puts fire in people's brain, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Liz, can you talk a little bit about how to prepare for mediation for someone who's about to do it for the first time? Because I know there's so much fear, at
mhm.
least in our audience, where they're like, I have mediation tomorrow. I'm totally freaking out.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, again, it's important to know what you're mediating about.
Hmm.
um, Getting clear on that. If you're working with an attorney, having having communication with them, it's so hard to get information from attorneys, right? And you don't want to like waste a lot of time and money and effort, trying like emailing them for no reason, right? That,
Hmm.
but making sure that they're giving you as much information as you need and you're getting it from them, like what's the goal of mediation, or what have we already figured out, what do we need to figure out, is it a parenting plan, are we trying to figure out, having an agenda, right? You can communicate with the mediator beforehand, right? That you don't need to tell them your whole sad story because they don't care. They're not advocating for you. They don't care what your side of the story is. So don't waste your time on that. But saying this is my agenda. I want to figure out, holidays for the kids, what we're doing with the house, so that you spend your time efficiently in that mediation session because it can be really expensive, right?
Yeah. Oh, quick
Um,
question when you say that. Do you think with this agenda that it's better to get the little things, like the easiest things done first or the hardest things done first?
it kind of depends on your situation. If you can get the easier, if you can build goodwill,
Hmm.
I think that's a really good start, right?
Oh, Wait a sec, your volume went off for a second. Someone might have tried to call you.
No, I
Oh,
had
now you're
some
back. You're
weird
fine.
thing pop up saying use hand gestures, and I don't know. If you can build goodwill earlier on, then you know, you are increasing your chances of a good outcome
Hmm.
for yourself, right? So on that note, if you kind of already know what the other party wants and you have it in your mind, like what, I don't know why that noise keeps happening. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
If you are, if you have in your mind, like, I know that they want this and I don't care so much about that, so I can let them have it in a strategic way to let them think they've won something. Sometimes that will put them in a giving mood. If
Hmm.
you're dealing with somebody who just wants to take and take and take, sometimes it doesn't matter. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Sometimes they're like, oh yeah, I won. I'm going to just keep winning. Sometimes that sort of strategizing doesn't work with someone whose brain is, I don't want to say broken because that's too flip, but sometimes people's brains don't operate in the way that like a normal person's brain works. But there are strategies you can use in that vein, right? If you did have a mediation session like we were talking about, and you keep your mouth zipped and you're listening to what's important, you can use that information in your next mediation
Yeah.
session because you
Yeah.
know like what's super important to them, and you can kind of fold that in to how you are going to approach the next one, right? One of the most important things for mediation is to have a realistic expectation of the outcome. Have an agenda, have a goal. Know that you can reach out to your mediator. Depending on the kind of mediator, they may ignore it, they may respond, they might be like me and um, you know, communicate with you about it. I mean, I really like it when people, I don't need to know their whole story, but if they're like, I want to do this and this and this, that's great because then I know how to structure the
Mhm.
mediation session because I remembered what it's like. And I want to make sure people get what they're there to get, and that we get to the things that are important to them. Um, Understanding what's realistic and what's not realistic, understanding that there is not a lot of value going into mediation to argue about what you think is fair and what's not fair. You cannot go and mediate something that happened in the past.
Mm.
Mediators can't do anything about what happened last year, right? That's gone. So what you're there to do is mediate what is going to happen in the future, what you're doing with this asset, what you're doing with this debt, what kind of parenting plan you're trying to sort out, right? Use your time wisely. Make sure that it's something that is actionable, that's within the realm of the law, that's realistic in terms of the law and math, that you can write in a plan that the court is going to accept. And a lot of that comes down to like work on your own part. It One of the best things you can do for yourself in terms of empowering yourself, making sure that you are approaching this divorce wisely, efficiently. You're going to save yourself a lot of time and money and heartache by making yourself as familiar as you can with what the laws are in your state, right? Um, Going to like a second Saturday, for example. I know you've heard of Second Saturday,
Yeah.
right?
Why don't you tell people what that is just in case they don't know?
Yeah, Second Saturday is a workshop. It's like a national workshop, largely for women. They have them all over. Actually, I think they have them in different countries as well, but it's primarily in the United States. It was started by women who wanted to educate women who are going through a divorce, primarily from a financial standpoint, but because statistically, more women come out financially disadvantaged than men from a divorce, and
Mhm.
that's still true. Just to educate women about the laws in the state and what their options are, and they're free. And usually they're done on the second Saturday of the month, and they're workshops. They're not support groups. So you go and you listen to presentations, and they usually have like an attorney and a CDFA and whatever. There are other organizations that do these kinds of workshops. So taking advantage of those kinds of things is take your advice and information from professionals. Don't go to Facebook mom groups, or well-meaning friends and families or people at the water cooler. This is another thing that I see over and over again, or TV shows, right? Don't allow your decisions and your emotions be driven by outside um, people who aren't qualified to give you that information, because again, your emotions are on fire.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we refer to that as barstool counsel. So Liz, I know we're getting a little bit short on time. Can you tell people how to find you?
Of course. Yeah, the name of my company is Open Space Mediation. Um, that's the name of my website. You can find me on all the, social media outlets at Open Space Mediation. I do obviously mediation. I do divorce coaching as well. Um, yeah, and that's me. That's
Yeah,
me.
thank you so much. I took a bunch of notes. There's some gems in here, especially like not being able to mediate something that happened in the past. Oh my gosh. Just that alone saves people tons of money because they often go into mediation being like, I need everyone to hear my story. And it's just
Yeah. No.
a waste of money and time
Yeah.
and everything. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for taking your time,
Oh,
especially as you're not in your normal place today. You're in my neck of the woods.
oh,
And yeah, and let's definitely stay in touch.
I would love that. Thank you so much for having me. It was
All
really
right,
nice
my
to
pleasure.
spend time with you. Take
Okay,
care.
take care.
Bye.